She said DV is the issue, not trafficking, not this, not that. She said DV is the issue. Believe her.
Yeah. Do you believe it?
Do you believe it?
Do you believe in that? Do you believe? I'm hungry, shit. I can get some food. I got some food. I'm with it. Let me know.
I love that. I miss y'all.
I don't know how to be.
Verdict.
You're out of here.
Let's stop myself.
Digging in the scene with the gangster leaning and we ain't coming down. See on my head that smile. See on my head that crown. I'm on top of the world, open down, baby.
I'm going up. Everybody's going up. You just think it's right now.
All day, cause I'm on. And on top of that, busting none of y'all don't go just a bit. But keep running.
That's how I wasn't no type of. I'm saying, I'm cool with that. I'm cool with that. I'm cool with that. You want to Google something, do something with it?
You know what's not an option. You gotta keep it top.
Watch out, top. Digging in the scene with the gangster leaning and we ain't coming down. See on
my run down on it.
I'm from 140th and Lenox. I'm from NFL. Up the block is 40 Wolves. Lou Simpson's on 142nd Cross Square. D. Ferg on number 8th Avenue. I don't see you around none of this. Not from none of that.
Of Diddy. It's people who don't like Diddy. There's all kinds of people here, family members. You know, a lot has been said. As famous as he is and as powerful as he is, we did not see a lot of celebrities attend his trial. We did see Kanye West show up for about a half an hour, and he had to go to the overflow room and he only stayed a short time and then left. It's not clear whether Diddy knew he was even there, but a lot.
First thing Diddy gonna do is have a freak off. Shit.
Parties with, none of those showed up, and it probably is because of that damning video of him. You can see Diddy beating his girlfriend Cassie, something he apologized for later on Instagram, and that was played multiple times during this trial. All right, Alex, and how we doing? Should we go to our newscast now? Yeah. Okay. Very good. Very good. Oh, I know. We're a little late because we have a sporting event. That's right. My bad. Forgot about that. That's okay. But let's recap just a little bit. I have an echo in my ear. That's why I'm talking loud. So my producer, we're working out the kinks in live television for you right here, live streaming anywhere. And if you have any questions, you can put them up because we do have an attorney present that we can get the answers for you to. Just a minute. Let's take a live look at the outside of the courtroom. You can see the NYPD there for 1 second while we fix the audio.
It's 5:04. The bail hearing, did it go through? I want to make sure I'm reporting the right news. I could go Christine just ask ABC too, because they right across the street. Still waiting, man. I think it's still updating. It didn't go down yet. So he's acquitted.
You guys, now the cars. No, I'm fine with that. You do the press tank, you have media. Other than that, you gotta get on the sidewalk.
This is what's going on, bro. Say nothing, right? They said it?
If you follow me,
I'm already everyone.
I will follow you too. Follow me, and I will follow you too.
The news networks is running to them like, yo, go get the guy with the blue hat. Go get the guy with the hat. They're sending the news people to me. Go get him. Go get him. They said, damn. I thought I was done, but my station just called me and told me to go get you. Come on, you got some time? Come, let me get something real quick. Let me ask you a couple questions. Right. Shout out, everybody drop likes. Let's get the likes up. Let's get the likes up. Likes up. Let's get the likes on the buck right now. Instant buck. I want the likes on 5,000. I want the poll on 10K. Let's go. We pushing for 10K on the post. We were doing astronomical posts. We were doing better numbers. I want the numbers to get astronomical. I need thousands in the likes. Thousands in the likes department. Y'all can help me do this. Everybody drop a like. Everybody hit the poll. Everybody let me know what you're thinking. If you are watching this video and it's not live no more, all right? The poll is, Diddy beat Rico. Are you happy? Are you happy that Diddy beat Rico? If you're not, you're not. So you can hit the poll. Sorry, that's right. You can hit the poll and you can write if you're feeling and good.
Yeah. So right now, just the situation going on right about that. Yeah. Yeah. Twitter with ease. Twitter with O's. Check it for little broke niggas. These out. Yeah. Spread those nose. P. Diddy verdict soon. The judge decides if P. Diddy will be released on bail. From this one. You right here in the thing out the I be getting that money. He released after talking to drive ready for abuse. Let's see. All right, we're gonna get it. Let's see what they talking about. Check it out.
going on right now. Jeremy, thank you so much for being with us. A little unusual for them to delay the bail hearing like this so many hours after the verdict?
There's nothing usual about this case. Everything about it's unusual, especially when you think about the magnitude of the charges that were brought against Sean Combs and to be cut down, for lack of a better term, by the prosecution right at the knees, leaving him with a crime that does not mandate incarceration, though he's already been in for 10 months. And now it's a very fair question to ask. Bail Reform Act aside about keeping him in, why should he not get out when he's not facing mandatory incarceration?
But what at this point would you say the prosecution's or the prosecutor's main concerns are about if they let him out on bail?
I think there's an integrity check here. Do I really believe, or do they really believe, that he's a danger to the community at large, he's a danger to any particular people, that he's not going to return to court? That's a hard stretch considering the man came down prior to being in charge. The man surrendered his passport. There's been no allegations since the accusations began that he's made any threats. And the bottom line is all of those things he's accused him of in terms of violence, guess what? He was acquitted, not a conviction.
Right, and I think that's the thing that's so hard for us to understand. So one of the bail denials, because there were several attempts to get him bail all the way through this process, the prosecution said, well, we're worried about him intimidating witnesses. But that would even be a point right now because he was cleared of the sex trafficking and the RICO charges, right?
Yeah, I think it's a heavy lift, even more so than the RICO charge itself, for the prosecution with a straight face to say, this man is a danger to society, this man is a danger to any particular women, this man is a risk of flight. Absolutely not. And the evidence doesn't bear it out in terms of what he's been convicted of, and nor does the history of in terms of his compliance with returning to court or behaving and following the judge's instructions. I think they come up empty-handed, but again, there's something called the Bail Reform Act, which says in substance, barring exception, he should be held in.
And then in terms of the final decision, that should be the judge, right? That will make that decision based upon these letters that he's gotten, that Natasha and Bianca were talking about from the prosecution and the defense.
Yeah, he's going to have to assess everything. He's going to be the arbiter of everything. The defense is saying, let's set $1 million. Combs will easily make that and be out. You can monitor him. We can regulate where he travels to in certain jurisdictions he can go. It can be done, and there's really no reason from a practical standpoint. And to be clear, he, yes, faces up to 10 years in prison, theoretically consecutive. That's never going to happen to 20 years. We're talking potentially months and nominal years if he's ultimately sentenced to that.
For that, on the transportation for prostitution for charges. But then in terms of the conditions and that they would have to satisfy, there were other things that he had offered in the past that were turned down by the government. An ankle monitor bracelet, having 24-hour security watching him. What about that? Do you think there'll be special circumstances or conditions that maybe a regular prison, I shouldn't say regular, but another detainee with a similar conviction would be not asked
I think a regular detainee with a similar conviction would not have to have an ankle bracelet with 24/7 monitoring by security. Hand in your passport. Defense counsel already has that. Stay in certain venues, drug tests. Don't leave New York or Florida where you reside. Post bond if you need to, in terms of the $1 million, if that's what's being asked by the defense. Those are reasonable things to ask. Is he going to return to court? Yes. If you have evidence that he makes a threat, you put him back in.
And then you've tried many big cases. What role does his family presence have? It's been very strong, very consistent, especially this last final week. His mother's been there every single day. He said his 85-year-old mother, in one of the defense application, he needs to be the main caretaker for his 85-year-old mother, Mrs. Janice Combs, who's been here every single day, and also be a father to his 3-year-old baby daughter. And then we've seen the other kids, the grown kids, and there and other extended family members. What effect does that have on a judge in this kind of decision?
So family ties are critical to show community ties. Family ties are critical to show you're not going to flee and you're going to return to court. However, let's not overstate. I think the defense has to be careful. Well, if he's a primary caretaker, who's been taking care of him for the past 10 months? If he's a primary caretaker for a young child, obviously someone else has been doing it. Let's not overstate, but let's also be very clear. They showed their support. They came for him. They're available for him. They're going to ensure his return.
They offered one of the bail packages previously that was denied by the judge and by the court was $50 million. Do you think this is going to be, we're going to be in the 7 figures to 8 figures?
Assuming that the judge agrees to release him, it's either going to be release him, or subject to certain conditions, or it's going to be much, much more nominal in terms of what that dollar amount is. There's no reason, if it was that high or higher, when you're talking about violent, ugly crimes, they don't exist. They're gone. Granted, I will say this, the prosecution at the time of sentencing can raise that evidence, even though he was acquitted, for the purposes of sentencing. So there is still that element, but bail needs to be reduced or he needs to be released.
All right, we'll stay tuned and find out. Jeremy Selden, thank you so much for being with us. And again, if you're just joining us right now, the bail hearing for Sean Diddy Combs happening inside this courthouse. He'll find out whether tonight he's going to go back to the Metropolitan Detention Center that has been named by numerous prison watch groups as one of the worst in the United States in terms of conditions, or whether he'll be in a much more comfortable setting for his first night out after this verdict was released. Anyway, that's the latest here from federal court. Natasha and Bianca, back to you in the studio.
All right, Lisa, thank you so much. Keep watching Fox 5 for continuing coverage of this breaking Diddy verdict. We're going to have more legal analysis coming up.
On record for the year so far. Let's have a listen in on what it sounded like outside the courthouse when Sean Diddy Combs' mother emerged after the verdict was rendered. We saw her blowing kisses to people and other people cheering them on. Now, not only has she been coming to court, as Lisa had just said, but his family, his sons have been coming. A short time separate from that, we saw out of the back entrance of this federal courthouse, the federal, the jurors. Hey, you know what? Tell me what it is that's going on right now, guys. Who's yelling at me? All right, well, this is breaking news right now. Let's come back on camera for this, and let's bring in Lisa Evers here. We're learning right now, Lisa, that apparently bond has been denied.
Okay, that's
well, I don't know if that's getting it. Let's use this one.
Let's get Jeremy here.
Yeah, Jeremy, can you come back in here when you get a moment? So what we had been positioned for was an argument that because the jury found Sean Diddy Combs guilty only on the lesser of the charges, that there was a presumption that he might be able to go home. The judge even asked him at one point, I imagine you don't want to go back to MDC. He nodded vigorously. Right? Let's use this microphone. I'm not sure if that one works. And Jeremy, if you'll come in here
Jeremy.
too. Should we start with Jeremy's reaction?
Jeremy Sallin is with us. He's a criminal defense attorney and former Manhattan prosecutor. And the bail, the news is that bail has been denied.
Yeah, that the judge.
So there is the law, the statute says in substance that bail would be denied, meaning that he goes and stays in. There's not an exception. For example, there could be an exception where the prosecution says we consent, and there's other pieces to it as well. There could be a danger to somebody or not, but the bail being kept as it is not necessarily atypical because of the law, though one would believe the fact that he was not convicted of the top charge, and it's been a reduction, and people do walk free and come back and RROR'd.
Well, keeping the bail as it is means there's no bail.
Right. So he's remanded, he's held without bail. So this doesn't change the potential sentence, obviously, because it's still up to 10 years, but for the immediate gratification purposes of getting out, doing what he needs to do and fighting this from the outside in terms of preparing for that sentencing, now it's been stripped.
And let me just add, this morning, the prosecution was very adamant about wanting to have this extra time to present their argument to the judge, and seemed, obviously they were disappointed with the verdict. It was very visible and very obvious, but they wanted to keep him behind bars. And they said, Your Honor, we need several hours to really get this whole argument together for you. And that's pretty stunning.
But again, I think you have to go back to what the law is and what it allows for. And generally speaking, barring some exception, the Bail Reform Act says you're staying, you're not just getting released. He was convicted of a crime. I think people, rightfully so, are disappointed and have questions from the public's perspective when you have such a horrific allegation that is not proven or substantiated beyond a reasonable doubt. And summarily, we're not talking about on the cusp. That's a pretty quick verdict that I think fooled many people, thinking that there might have been a sex trafficking conviction. He's walking scot-free in terms of any allegation of coercion, force, fraud, violence, but he's still in custody.
Okay, so Jeremy, what about? Can we just ask Jeremy? Was it a difficult decision for the judge legally?
I think the judge is no. I think the judge is not finding any exception and following the law, and that's why he's staying there. The hope from the prosecution, though they didn't, the defense, though they didn't raise it specifically in their letter to the court, was that yes, there may be the Bail Reform Act, and that was what the prosecution relied on, since statutorily you can't just let him walk. The prosecution was hoping, the defense was hoping that the judge would look past that and say, he's returned, he shows that he can follow a court order, he's not going to flee, and he's not a danger to anyone specifically or the community at large.
And then let me ask you this, in terms of the appealing this decision, what's the process now that the defense will have to go through in order to appeal the judge's decision of no bail?
I would expect that he's not going anywhere anytime soon, appeal or not. I think that they're going to follow the judge. I haven't heard what the judge said, so it's hard for me to just speak on an island here. But based on the law as we know it, I think the judge has ample ground to stand on and make this decision.
Let me answer that. Our Sharon Crowley has been watching this and telling us right now the judge says that the government was correct that the detention is mandatory for a Mann Act conviction, what you're indicating, and the judge said that the limited exception to mandatory detention was not met. Sean Combs pointed to his duties as a father and a son, which we talked about, but that does not rise to the level of an appropriate exception, according to the judge.
Right, and to my point moments ago, that's what the law is. But we'd like to think that from the outside looking in, when someone has been charged with such egregious and horrible acts and a jury of your peers says no so quickly, there should be a means to say you should be free, but there still is a conviction. The Mann Act qualifies. He's in custody. Whether that's a sign of the judge saying I'm going to harshly sentence him or not, we can't say, but let's not read into it. The judge is simply following the law, and this warrant does not warrant that 10 years that you're hearing about for each of the counts for Jane and
then Jeremy, remind us again about the Mann Act.
So the Mann Act does not involve coercion or force or anything like that. The Mann Act simply says that if you're bringing someone across state lines in substance, engaging in prostitution, that violates the law. I look at this case, not to really go too far off. This really, especially when you hear this verdict, should likely never have been in that courthouse. If anything, it should have been in that courthouse, meaning 100 Center Street or something similar, in a state courthouse for domestic violence, for abuse, for things that physical abuse and assaultive behavior, those types of things. But now we're here It is what it is. But I think the prosecution really got humbled whether or not the judge is keeping Sean Combs in.
No, 100%. So now tonight he'll be spending the night in MDC.
It's hotter in there than it is out here, certainly for him. But there is now a horizon. That sun is rising for him. There is an out, and I'd like to think, based on the evidence and based on the finding of that jury, that out will be reasonable. And the defense said maybe 20 to 24 months. The prosecution is saying at least 50 to 60 months, even more. Where the judge falls, I don't know. But there's freedom for a guy who's looking at life in prison, which is unbelievable, whether he's in jail tonight or not.
And you told us that there's no minimum with the conviction, the prostitution conviction.
Correct, but there are guidelines, and the judges generally follow those guidelines. His ability to move along them and go up or down. But I think we have to look at what the evidence is and remember that the prosecution can still bring out in sentencing, though you could not do that in a state court, all of his other allegations and the evidence there that was not supported by the jurors who said not guilty, because it's not proof beyond a reasonable doubt in sentencing. It's not the same standard.
Right.
But do I think he's going to get 10 years? We've been wrong before. No, I do not. There is an out for him.
All right. And we'll continue watching this closely. And so that's it.
That's it for now. That's it for tonight.
Yeah, just to sum up, this has been a day of news on the Sean Diddy Combs case. First, the jury came back and rendered a not guilty verdict on the heavier charges of the indictment. And then there was this talk about whether or not he would be walking out of here. There were a lot of reasons why some people thought that might actually be the case. But at this point, we've just learned that the judge has denied the application for bail, which means instead of walking out a free man today, Sean Combs will have to wait. And the judge noted, we're told right now by Sharon Crowley, that one of the incidents of violence against a former girlfriend was in June of 2024, after Sean Combs knew that he perhaps was illegal. Right. So there are things in the bag, so to speak, that the judge is taking into consideration, that as people out on the street, maybe we were slower to get to, but the judge has made his decision. Sean Combs will not be seen on camera outside the courthouse today, at least not as a somewhat free man on bail. That's the latest from here at the federal courthouse in Lower Manhattan. We go back to you guys.
I was going to say, Arthur, before you go, maybe one more last question. We do know that by law, the detention is mandatory under the counts he was convicted on. But maybe you could explain some other reasons, or the top reason why the judge refused bail.
Well, it was actually, as Jeremy Salanso kindly shared just now, that bail typically isn't decided after the jury's verdict. It was decided before the trial goes into play, right? And then they decide whether or not to hold a defendant in that case. That had already happened in this case. The decision was made to hold Sean Combs behind bars during the length of these court proceedings, and they're not over yet, right? That we have to get through sentencing for this to actually truly be over. So what Jeremy was explaining was it would have required.
See, there's 30 months in between there of what their sides are in their position. That will all be ironed out with the PSI and the argument. Oh, I set sentencing for Friday, October 3rd, 10 a.m. I am willing to expedite it. Combs' attorney.
For Friday, October 3rd at 10 a.m.
October 3rd, but that's the time we said it would probably be in October.
But he's willing to
Judge
expedite.
goes on to say, we will need an expedited pre-sentencing report from probation, PSI. But I will be available anytime. Yeah, they want to expedite it because Diddy wants to, even if Diddy has to do time, they know he'll do it in a camp. So get him out of there at the NBC. So they want sentencing as quick as possible so he can get up and go and do that minor time or a little bit of time sometime. Now, of course, his defense will probably say in the PSR they want him to go home, or they'll say halfway house, or they'll say something like house arrest or something. The judge's not going to do that, most likely. I mean, just not. At least get him out of the NBC. Judge proposed the sentencing on October 3rd, 10 a.m. October 3rd. Oh, maybe we get a press conference too, by the way. We shall see. Judge says there is a great divide on the sentencing guidelines. I see that Ms. Comey has her statute book open. The rule, she says, required the preparation of a report, PSI, absent of a reasoned waiver. Probation may be able to expedite. And that means expedite. Probation department does the PSIs. Probation department does the PSIs. Update me by July 8th at noon. So we look like July 8th. They have to give them an update whether the judge will expedite that October 3rd hearing or not, sentencing hearing. But as of now, his sentencing set for 10 a.m. October 3rd. Oh, there's a hearing. They're going to have a hearing on the afternoon of July 8th on this matter. So we got a hearing, a new court hearing. See you there. This channel. Make sure you watch on this channel with a hearing. We got a hearing July 8th, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, next week. We got a hearing next week. New hearing. Diddy hearing. We'll cover. Mark has some things to say, though. Your Honor has a lot of information from presiding over the trial. We want the sentencing as soon as possible. Other Mann Act cases, there is nothing remotely similar to this. We'll see ultimately what the or what else Mark says. Is the lead attorney. They want sentencing right away. They want to get him out of there. Of course they want sentencing right away. You want to get him out of there. That's what they want. Because even if he got some time, which I believe he will, get time, get him out of there. Get him out of the MDC. He don't want to be in that MDC. He wants in a better security. He's probably going to a camp now. So crazy. Early for this trial, we were like, he's going to maximum security prison. And now he ends up going to a camp with minimal time. Few years at the most. Crazy. We'll see how this ends here. Judge went hard. Judge is not the jury. Judge taking this very, very serious. Judge is not the jury. Imagine if Diddy got a bench trial. Ooh. Imagine if Diddy had a bench trial. Camp. Federal prison camp. Those are the most minimal securities, usually by military bases or attached to low federal correctional institution lows. They're camps. They don't even have bars. You sleep in dormitories. Inmates go around work. They can walk around. No fences. No fences. They could get furloughs and things like that. Leave. Come back. It's pretty laid back on federal lows. That's where he'll probably go. Or maybe or camp. Maybe a low with minimal fences. I doubt they would send him to a low though, because the lows are pretty wild. A lot of inmates wilding out at the lows in the dormitories and everything, up all night playing cards and drinking hooch. Probably go to a camp. Nobody's gonna do nothing to him at camp. Nobody's gonna do nothing. There's no they don't let violent people at the camp anyway. I would consider his charges violent. BOP might not classify it as violent. Might not. That he's not going to a maximum security. The USP days, the ADX days are over for Diddy. It's not going to happen with Diddy on this trial. Hey, Hawaii, Rochelle O. Thank you very much, Rochelle O. Thank you from Hawaii. 3 a.m. Hawaii time. Rochelle, thank you. Aloha. Hawaii. Hello, Hawaii friends. Hawaii. When we start out at 8:15 in the morning, Rochelle says she's on at 3 a.m. watching this. 3 a.m. from Hawaii. Wow. Thank you. All right, so we're probably going to get a press conference here. Maybe an update. They're setting them up as if somebody's going to talk. This looks like they literally have the go-ahead that someone's going to come out here and speak. Attorneys, they're going to sit there and say things about this prosecution team. This is an injustice. The cases we've reviewed involve defendants making millions, or involve minors. That's different. Here are the facts. From our letter, U.S. versus Dillon. All right, so Mark is still going. Mark's trying to put something on the record here. Then he's saying, then there was the Emperor's Club case of a former governor of New York. We understand this is moving quickly. The issue for us is if we had more time, we could have shown extraordinary circumstances. He's trying to say they needed more time to present what they wanted to present. Things came up quick here today. We're gonna wait and see what's being said here and who comes out. So we're not done. Mark saying you concede violence in your closing. Whether that's relevant to sentencing is not for today. But it can be considered on a bail application. That's what the judge said. You conceded violence in your closing. Whether that's relevant to sentencing is not for today. But it can be considered on the bail application. That's what the judge is telling Mark. Mark's now saying in June of 2024, the Jane incident, there's an argument that Combs was defending himself. Mark's trying to tell the judge that Jane incident with the violence, it was Diddy defending himself. That could be the argument. How can that be when, well, they're saying that, and in the closing, it didn't happen. None of that happened. None of that violence happened. But how can, Jane did put Diddy's head in a marble. Then Jane backed off and went away, and Diddy went after her multiple times and even later. You know what his defense attorney said to the judge just a little bit ago? Combs is no pimp and is not a danger to the community, defense attorney says. His attorney said Combs is no pimp. Judge responds to Mark here saying, Mr. Combs tried to get into a batter's program in New York. The jury never saw that. And he got arrested. All these months later, here we are. The same drive to meet the head-on. Like the self-respecting businessman he is. Oh. Judge is going at Mark right now. Attorney Mark. Anything out of this, maybe the judge is the hero and gives him a harsh sentence, higher than what the prosecution and the defense is asking for. The judge has the authority to do that. Pretty much what the judge is saying is you conceded he's violent. He's violent. He's a violent guy. He's violent. You conceded that. You admit that. And I can factor that in the bail application in granting bail or not. So off the jail, Diddy. Off the jail. Though, he probably will sleep a little bit better tonight. But off the jail. Look at this. He's been a model prisoner. What? He's been accused of stealing people's PIN numbers and using other inmates' PIN numbers. There has been no issues. He's going to have next chapters of his life. When you're charged with racketeering, you have dark talks. When I was reading the Mia message for his birthday, I had a hard time doing it. They say he's a model prisoner? What? A modeled prisoner. Domestic violence is violence, judge says as he shuts down Combs' defense. The defense's own language is coming back to haunt Combs' team. As the judge notes, Combs' attorneys conceded to the jury that there was violence in this case. His attorney said in their opening and closing arguments that Combs was guilty of domestic violence, but that his offenses did not meet the bar of racketeering or sex trafficking. The judge reminded Attorney Mark of this as he pushed back the Combs defense has not adequately proved that Combs is not a danger to the public. Domestic violence is violence. Mark's still trying to convince the judge. His children are here, his two daughters. They're in the middle of the second row. They no longer have a living mother. Here, the use of prostitution services has been convicted under the Mann Act. He's saying the user of prostitution services have been convicted under the Mann Act. He was acquitted of violence for sex trafficking. Hey, Aaron Katursky, ABC News. Oh, he wants to talk to you. Let me check. Okay, check. Oh, Diddy might be speaking to the judge. Diddy might be speaking to the judge now. Oh. Okay, check. Miss Comey, what do you have to say? Oh, the judge might listen. The judge is going to listen to Diddy speak. Diddy's going to speak to the judge. That's what's happening. But in the meantime, the judge is like, okay, you check. Miss Comey. AUSA Comey says his brazenness is almost unmatched. The suggestion it was self-defense is insulting. He slapped her in the shoulder. He had drugs in his New York City hotel room. He invited Jane. So Diddy's going to speak to the judge here. The prosecution is making the pitch. Whoa. Is she talking about the freak off that was supposed to happen at the time of Diddy's arrest? It was supposed to be with Jane? Is that what the prosecution's trying to say? Because earlier we heard the prosecution saying he was preparing to do a freak off before his surrender. But look at this. He had drugs in his hotel room. He invited Jane. Jane appears to be the person he was going to have a freak off with at the time he was going to get arrested at the Park Hyatt Hotel. The time he got arrested. Yep. That's what it looks like to me. Mark's trying to sneak into the bail application. We could craft conditions. Would the court be open to us putting together a bail package? I am happy to do so. The judge goes, the bail application is denied. We'll receive, hopefully, a joint proposal on expedited sentencing on Tuesday and a hearing at 2 p.m. Mark was trying to get him to change his mind on the bond. And the judge wanted to remind him again, your bail application has been denied. We'll hopefully receive a joint proposal of an expedited sentencing. Hearing Tuesday, 2 p.m. here on this channel. We'll be here for that. that would be in reference to an expedite. He might get sentenced that day. Who knows? I don't know. Adjourned. Court has been adjourned. Bond denied. Sentencing October 3rd. Hearing regarding possible expediting of sentencing on Tuesday, 2 p.m. Now we have to see who comes out of the courthouse, the attorneys or anyone. All right, so bond denied. Dun, 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 dun. Breaking news. Bond has been denied in the Sean P. Diddy Combs case. He goes back to his prison cell. Prosecutor says during the course of this bond hearing, Combs is an extremely violent man with an extraordinary dangerous temper. Prosecutor Comey said the judge is correct in his decision to keep Sean Diddy Combs in detention, calling him an extremely violent man with a danger temper. What's exceptional about Combs, Comey said, is his wealth, his violence, and his brazenness. He's an extremely violent man with an extraordinary dangerous temper who has shown no remorse and no regret for his multiple victims. All right. So now you see a little bit of martial movement. We'll see what's going on. JLR, would he have to register as a sex offender? That is a great question. I don't know the answer of that, Robin Lynn Griffin. If other people could respond, I see people saying, great question, great question. Some say yes, some say no. I don't know. I'll have to look into that. We'll have the answer next time when we come back on this hearing scheduled for Tuesday, 2 p.m. We'll probably set the feed up for 1:15, 1:30 or something like that. I don't know. They might say we're ready for sentencing then. I don't know. So he goes back to jail. So as much as, victory, he's not spending life in prison without the possibility of parole. He was found not guilty on the most serious charges of RICO and sex trafficking. He still goes back, even on the minor charge, and it's not necessarily minor. It's still going to hold significant jail time, prison time. Some, not as much as life, not as much as 15, 30 years. But he goes back to jail. The judge, sending him back to jail. Judge 2, Mark, you full-throatedly in your closing argument told the jury that there was violence here and domestic violence is violence. And you said this is a case that did involve violence. There you go. They said it out of their own mouths. Their own words were used against them. No bail. Prosecutor says he's dangerous. Prosecution says Diddy is dangerous. Diddy is dangerous. That's what the prosecution says. Diddy is dangerous. Pretty strong words, folks. I said Diddy is dangerous. So, okay. So now what we're doing is we're kind of just waiting to see what the atmosphere is like outside this courthouse as you see people are starting to come out, starting to trickle out. Bail, bond, denied. We'll see where this goes. And we'll see if there's any press conference or statement outside the federal court, 500 Pearl Street. Welcome aboard. JLR Investigates. Bail denied. That means Sean Diddy Combs is spending 4th of July at the very least behind bars. You're not going home on 4th of July. All right, so the marshals are starting to move around. The question is, do we get a press conference? That's what we're waiting to see. Press conference. Diddy's 0 for 4. 0 for 4 at bail hearings. Bail denied. So next step is to see the family come on out. Maybe a statement by his attorneys. Maybe not. Maybe they're just going to keep quiet out of fear of offending anyone out there. We shall see. They wanted to bring him out. They wanted to show. I mean, this is good publicity for his attorneys too, because his attorneys now probably getting calls all over their phone. Hey, we want you. We want you. You know, the attorneys won on this. His attorneys won. If there was any real victory here, people that won, it would be his attorneys. Attorneys won. A lot of people probably be calling the attorney saying, I want your services. I want your services. Y'all got him off of RICO. Attorneys won. All right, so we're going to see if two more things that we're going to see. Possible press conference, maybe family leaving the courthouse. Here, the choppers. Glad we covered this for sure. All right, the people are starting to trickle out of the courthouse. Everybody's starting to come out. Welcome, new members. Low 12, welcome. Diane Wood, welcome. Brittany Rodero, welcome. Alicia Johnson, welcome. Cheryl LaRosa, welcome. Lissy Santiago, welcome. Glenda Brady, welcome. This is a strong indication that the judge might lean towards punishing him severely for this. More leaning towards the prosecution's side of the situation, it appears. I mean, you denied the guy bond. If you thought the case was just simple prostitution, like the defense wanted the judge to think, oh, it's prostitution legal in Manhattan. They don't even prosecute it, Los Angeles, and all nice and easy, and this is all just nothing, little minor charges, then why didn't the judge release him on bond? $1 million. That's a lot of money. Why didn't the judge release him on bond? I think the judge here is sending a message. It's like, well, maybe the jury did, maybe in the eyes of the law, the jury did what they did, but I feel like this is much more serious matter. Otherwise, he would have sent him home. Technically, the judge can give Diddy 20 years. The judge can go higher than what the prosecution said. The judge can do whatever the judge wants. Yeah, and somebody said the judge wants the bribe. Seriously. Maybe the judge is like, yeah. I want to make sure my counts are flushed. No, I get it, but the judge can literally do whatever the judge wants to do. Have they gone higher than the prosecutor before? Yeah, they have. It's called an upward variance. Upward variance. They'll have to explain. The judge will have to explain why they're going higher than what the guidelines state. What do we got going on here? All right, so different views of people leaving the courthouse in real time. We are live outside the federal courthouse, and wait to see if Diddy's family's leaving. I'm sure they're the ones everyone's going to be watching, trying to get an update. When the judge denied bail for Sean Diddy Combs, his mouth dropped and his eyes went wide. He went like this. Seriously. That's what CNN has just reported. His mouth dropped and his eyes wide. He thought he was getting out. Thought he was getting out. Oh, medical emergency? What's going on? That's what he did. Hear the helicopter up there? They got a helicopter up there. So with this case, we will be back on the afternoon on Tuesday. Right about 1:15. We'll cover it for sure. Oh, don't tell me the feed went out. Hopefully the feed didn't go out. Did our feed go out? I'd like to see if they give a statement out there, or the family at least, if they say anything. It's back. Reaction for the Sean Diddy Combs verdict here. Got a chopper above. There's a chopper above. Pimp Diddy, bail denied. Might get some activity here shortly. There's also a chopper up in the sky. So we got a chopper feed in outside.
Yeah. Thank you. I'm so sorry. I forgot so much. I don't know if they want that. Yeah, let's go around the other side, right? You know what's on your right, student? It's going to be a little delayed with all the traffic. Huh? 20 minutes? Okay. You're okay standing? Okay. I just want to make sure. Some people on my side. Oh, no problem. Do they have credentials? They don't have credentials. Yes. Okay. Just one. Just one.
Like family's about to come back.
You guys coming to come too without a guy without a car, right? They have credentials, got treated the same. You? Oh, you are you by yourself? Yeah, but you know that.
have a lot of
He got a shirt. It's called "A Frico is not a Rico." Greg, get ready to get the family.
Yeah, I got on screens. Yeah. And then I have the control in the other in there.
Oh, they're doing it out of respect of that person
Okay, thank you.
that came out on a stretcher. Aaron Katursky. Combs tells his family, I love you. Be strong.
Okay. I just flagging you guys, Jonathan's publicist Bears announced the attorneys are going to come out in about 7 minutes. 7 minutes to 5 weeks. Defense attorneys will be speaking to press.
Oh, we got a press conference. Press conference. Press conference coming, folks. Press conference. They said 7 minutes. We have a press conference. This will be interesting. We have a press conference. They're going to be speaking on the microphone. Holly Baird, his publicist. We'll hear what they have to say. Get your popcorn. Press conference coming. I figured one would come. They said about 7 minutes, so probably about 5 more minutes or so. Press conference. Press conference incoming.
Oh, but it looks like a shark.
These are all full out.
Yeah, facts. We do have 285 and we have 252.
All right, so we shift over here. They're going to have a press conference. There's the sketch artist right there. That's the sketch artist. They plan, the publicist for Sean P. Diddy Combs, apparently Holly Baird, and the defense attorneys plan to have a press conference here any minute. That's the buzz. So that's what we have happening. That's why there's still a lot of activity out there. And we'll hear what they have to say. Shall be interesting. First press conference that we've heard outside the courthouse at all during this trial. So it should be interesting what happens here. To Nikki Brown, JLR, the prosecution's job, and they are right. No remorse is seen here. And if given time in jail, he needs a lot of reflection on the rest of his life. It's just that letter that Diddy's attorney sent to the judge about the getting bond just really just is like, to me, is like a slap in the face of Cassie and Jane. He's just saying this is simple prostitution. That's it, of adults. Like none of that stuff, what they said prior, mattered. So we got a lot of martial activity, a lot of law enforcement activity, and we'll listen in as soon as it gets underway shortly, this press conference. Hear what everyone has to say. Stand by. JLR investigates continuous coverage of Sean P. Diddy Combs, the trial. Found not guilty on the most serious charges of racketeering and sex trafficking. Found guilty, 2 counts. Prostitution, transporting prostitutes. Defense tried to get him out on bond pending sentencing. The judge said no. Judge with some very strong words to the defense. Though his strong words might not factor into sentencing, that's up to the judge. Defense feels like 21 to 27 months is the guideline range. for Diddy. Prosecution says 53 to 61 months. Or is it 51 to 63? Either or, 4 to 5 years. Higher. Oh, look at this. Family members. Diddy's children. Mom. Mom is leaving. Oh, look at the whole family holding hands. Diddy's family is leaving. Look at this. All right, so his family are leaving.
That's right, boy.
Yeah, he's pulling up.
All right. We get a press conference here. All right, so now we're waiting just on the press conference to hear what the lawyers and the publicist for Diddy has to say. And that should be coming any second. The family left, man, and the family's body language definitely more at ease than they were prior days. I'm sure they are mad that he couldn't get out on 4th of July. But in their minds, it appears like there's a big sign of relief for him not spending life in prison without the possibility of parole, getting that life in prison off. Maybe down the line, they'll speak and give some statements and whatnot. All right, so we're waiting on the defense. Apparently, that's what's left. They're going to give a press conference outside. Let me just find out if there's a specific time. They just said within minutes. If we can get a set time. Yeah, they said there's a lawyer press conference. Soon. We'll hear what the lawyers have to say about this whole situation. So we're not done yet. And reminding the viewers, we will be back for this hearing Tuesday. We'll be back Tuesday. We'll probably come on about 1 o'clock, 1:15. We'll set it up. We know a lot of you will be there in reference to this sentencing. Will the sentencing from October 3rd be pushed up? Will they handle the issue there? Who knows? It's interesting that they've got a hearing in reference to that. Thoughts? In the meantime, let's have a conversation. Thoughts? Cancel the homecoming BBQ. That's what Cass McBee says. SP, what was the family's reaction to bail being denied? They said in the courts, it was kind of like disappointment, not mad. More disappointment. They're all looking out there as if somebody's about to come out. Who's coming out? It appears there could be parties about to come out. Oh, Mark Garagos. There's Mark Garagos. All right, Mark Garagos. You see him. Look at Mark Garagos. Oh, Mark Garagos is happy. Mark Garagos smiling. Thumbs up. Whoa. Mark Garagos looked happy. There he is. Look. Hopefully they turn this up.
I can tell you that I talked to Sean. For those of you who know, I've known him for almost 20 years. And he's thankful, he's relieved, and he thanks the jurors. I think the jurors did what jurors do, which is they saw through an overcharged, overzealous kind of a crazy prosecution, and they did the right thing. And that's why, when people talk about tyranny and fascism and everything else, as long as you've got a jury system that works, that's what separates us from the rest of the world. And Sean is thankful. That doesn't really, the bail, I think, is besides the point. He was acquitted of the trafficking. He was acquitted of the RICO. Those were always, I thought, as an observer, a ridiculous use of taxpayer resources. This case was never what it was made out to be. This case was ridiculous in so many different ways, and I'm just thankful that the jury saw through it.
But he's still facing prison time.
Sean is, the interesting thing about prison is it's a timeout, and he's had a lot of time to reflect, and he's in a good place mentally, and I'm proud of him. And by the way, for those of you who may miss it, the defense didn't put on a single witness. The defense tried their case within the prosecution case. And at the end of the day, it's a colossal failure by the prosecution.
Whoa, strong words by Mark Garagos, saying it's a colossal fail by the prosecution. He also said Diddy is reflecting. All right, so that's Mark Garagos, California attorney representing the Menendez brothers. Scott Peterson, he's on the defense team. His daughter, Tenny Garagos, defense attorney, Diddy. He has a podcast with TMZ, Harvey Levin. He went to the microphone. He shared his thoughts. So next, there should be some other attorneys here coming out. Interesting that Mark came out and just spoke himself. There should be some more. So we'll keep it here and we'll wait. Appears to be a press conference coming shortly.
I know him. In-house? In-house? Yeah, yeah.
All right, so we got a press conference coming any second. This is a wake-up call for all the goons. KK, Paulie, D-Rock, go get them, feds. I still think they're going after KK. I do. KK, D-Rock, Fahim. Imagine they go to prison and Diddy doesn't for a RICO. We'll see. We'll be interesting. Will be interesting. Well, we're going to wait and see. I want to see what they have to say, the attorneys. I know they're going to do a lot of victory padding, and then they might throw some nukes at the prosecution. We'll see. Oh, what do we got? Here we go. Right over there. I think that's Holly. I think that's the publicist. All right, so that's Holly Baird, the publicist. She's going in. She's asking where this press conference is going to be. They're going to be coming out any second. And we'll listen in on the attorneys. Here they come. Here they come.
It's not a party till we're all here. All right. Thank you all for being patient. Am I speaking loud enough? You all can hear me okay? All right. Today's a great victory. It's a great victory for Sean Combs. It's a great victory for the jury system. You saw that the Southern District of New York prosecutors came at him with all that they had. They're not stopping, but one thing stands between all of us and a prison, and that is a jury of 12 citizens. And we had a wonderful jury. They listened to every word, and they got the situation right, or certainly right enough. They acquitted him of the sex trafficking, which he was absolutely innocent of. They acquitted him of the racketeering conspiracy that he was absolutely innocent of, and all of the components to it. The kidnapping, he was innocent of that. The arson, he was innocent of that. The obstructing justice, he was innocent of that. And that is no longer just me saying that. That is the verdict of our jury. So today's a great day. Today is a win. Today is a victory of all victories for Sean Combs and our legal team. And I want to say one thing. There are very few people around whom a legal team could coalesce and become one. And Sean Combs is that person, and we are all blessed to be part of it. And I am now done speaking to you, and I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Garagos.
All right, I first want to thank my client, Sean Combs, for trusting us, myself and everybody here, this incredible dream team that he put together. Without him, we would not have been able to do this. He is incredible, and I want to thank him. I want to thank the jury for putting such great care into this case. They came early every single day, and I want to thank them, as I said in my opening, standing between all of us and the drastic consequences of the criminal convictions of sex trafficking and RICO is a jury of our peers. And I thank them. I want to thank the judge And I want to thank, despite the terrible conditions at the MDC, I want to thank the good people who worked there, who ensured that we had sufficient amount of time to prepare for trial. It is extremely difficult to prepare for a federal case in the conditions at the MDC, and they did everything they could to make that happen. I want to thank them. I also have been saying this since the beginning of this case. Sean Combs has not sexually assaulted anybody. I've been saying this for months. We've said it with each lawsuit that came out, and today that was proven true. The media got it wrong about Sean Combs every single day for nearly 2 years. I ask that for every time you guys see a civil lawsuit, criminal complaints or criminal indictments, you actually take a look and analyze these and see whether or not these are actually going to stand up in a court of law, because today they did not. He has not sexually assaulted anybody, certainly hasn't sex trafficked anybody, and the jury found that today. Thank you. I am now going to pass this over to Mr. Steele.
Good evening. Good evening. I want to thank the ladies and gentlemen to my right and my left. There's not a better group of honest and ethical, hardworking, and zealous lawyers, and I especially wish to thank Mark and Tenny for allowing me and everyone else to come together. On behalf of my family, myself, I wish to thank you all for being here and writing truthfully about a man wrongly charged with most of the crimes. And that we all must remember that allegations are nothing. And I'd like to thank Sean for letting me be here. Thank you all. God bless you.
What does your client want to say for
Thankfully, in our country, we have a right to a jury trial. And thankfully, Mr. Combs took that right. He actually battled for his freedom, for his innocence. He did it. And a lot of times, you know, people are too afraid to do it. And he did it, and we're so happy that he did. We're proud of him. We are completely honored that he put his faith and his trust in us to fight for him. Today is a major win to show what the system can do. We appreciate and we're so thankful to the jury. Thank you to the court. Thank you, New York. It's been a pleasure being here and fighting in your district. Thank you so much. And listen, we appreciate the media. We do. There was a lot of reporting on the accusations. There was a lot of reporting on the indictment. Please report just as vigorously on the acquittal of these counts, please, because that's also the right thing to do. Thank you.
Oh, sure. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. So, first of all, I want to thank this wonderful team behind me. I am so happy that they allowed me to join it. I would like to say that I've done a lot of trials, but this is probably the most special one to me. And most important, I want everyone to know the job is not done yet. We're not finished. The job is not done yet. And so I want to, again, thank Mark, Tenny, and the rest of these wonderful lawyers behind us. They did a fantastic job. And like those before me have said, our system, the jury system, is important. We need good people to serve on juries. We need good people to come and say a person is not guilty. Take that courage to do that. It's okay. We want you to serve on juries. This particular jury was a special jury. It was fantastic. It listened. It paid attention. It put the nonsense to the side. It put the distraction to the side and came to a lawfully good, just conclusion. Juries are important. Juries are important. But more important than that, I think, is people wanting to be on juries. So for all of you all listening, for all you out there in the public, please accept the call, become a juror, and do the right thing. Thank you very much.
You sure? Yeah.
It is such a privilege to be a part of this legal team, this amazing legal team, and to represent Sean Combs. And this is a reminder to everyone, I hope, about the flaws in the criminal justice system, and for everyone to take a second look when the government charges people with crimes, and especially when the Southern District of New York does here. And so I hope everyone takes that seriously. And we take this as an enormous victory and win. This is a huge win. He was acquitted of sex trafficking, acquitted of RICO conspiracy, and he will be able to sleep well at night knowing that. Okay, thank you to everyone. I appreciate you.
Jason, guys, can any of you share what this
Driscoll.
Well, I want to start just by thanking my family and the families of each of the lawyers here for giving us the space and the time to serve Sean and to fight for Sean. I want to thank the court for giving us a fair fight. And you see what happens when you have a good defense team come together in front of a court that gives the defense team a fair fight. And finally, I just want to thank Sean for giving me the honor and the privilege of serving him. Thank you.
I feel like there's not a lot more that I can say because of these wonderful people have really said all there is to say, but I do want to thank Sean for the privilege of this opportunity to help him clear his name after all, with the Southern District coming after him, guns blazing. It really is a testament to the fact that when you get a fair trial and a jury of your peers listens to the evidence, they will do the right thing. And I just want to say again how proud I am to be part of this team and to have helped Sean get a just verdict.
Are you going to appeal the minute? Guys, can anyone share what Mr. Combs wanted to say in court when he raised his hand during the bail hearing?
No.
Can you talk about the bail decision and the judge using defense's
So
own words during trial about violence?
I'm not going to talk about the bail decision because it's still a pending unresolved matter. And I don't think we're going to take any more questions. I want to thank you all. You guys have been so diligent and dedicated. I pass you guys in the rain. I walk by you in the sun, and you're all out here every day. I just want to thank you. But I don't think we're going to take any questions.
Take us through the ups and downs of the day, though, because Mr. Combs got acquittals on the major charges. Maybe thought he could go home tonight, and then was told he couldn't.
So a lot of these things are still in process. I mean, the one thing I'm going to leave you with this: we are not nearly done fighting. We are just getting started. To win this and to defeat the prosecutors from the Southern District of New York takes effort from beginning to end. Today was a major step in the right direction, but we fight on and we're going to win, and we're not going to stop until he walks out of prison a free man to his family. Thank you all for coming.
All right. Special jury. It's a special jury. Special jury. That's what they said. Special jury. Woo. Yeah, I know you guys have a lot of thoughts. Continuous coverage. JLR investigates. Look, Diddy's defense team. They say this is an epic, massive victory. They call it a great victory. It's a great victory for Sean Combs. It's a great victory for the jury system. It's what his lawyer said.
Oh, yeah, you taped this.
Said it's a great victory. They're posing for photos. Look at that. Patting each other on the back. Said it's a great victory.
Got a couple other
special jury stuck out to me. You noticed Xavier Donaldson was like, everyone, sign up to be a juror, be a jury. That's your civic duty. Very, very interesting. Special with an S, money, special juror, jury, special jury, paid jurors, paid. Great victory. Your client is still in prison. Plus, they're almost like, it's almost like a slap in the face to Cassie and the others. I don't know if that's going to affect Diddy at sentencing by going out there saying that this is a massive victory when Diddy could literally be sitting in prison beyond what the prosecution has asked for. They get upward variance. I don't know if that was a smart strategic move to sit out there and victory and say you beat the SDNY prosecutors. I mean, the guy has to get sentencing and he faces up to 20 years in prison. I don't know if that was a wise move to do, but we'll see. Harper Day, justice for all the victims, for real, for real. Blue Angels are awesome. Hey, Blue Angels are awesome. Meech, thank you. To Nikki Brown, you had a lot of comments. I appreciate all your comments. SP, thank you. Jody, thank you.
Where am I? Where am I?
Nola Darling, I saw you earlier. Thank you. Angela, thank you. Cheryl LaRosa, thank you. Murky Piglet said Diddy should waive his PSI. Sentencing will be a little quicker. He might waive it, but I don't know if it's. I'm sure the government will challenge that.
Yes.
But it's interesting, for sure.
No, not that we know of. I mean, I doubt they'd speak out here anyway. Yeah.
Well, that's the scene. Everything is winding down. Yes. Diddy on his way back to the MDC. His lawyers.
Yeah, that's why I was actually just on the phone with.
Feel like they won in a sense. The lawyers did win. His lawyers did win in a sense. They won. I don't know what they said here would be good for their client.
Oh yeah. No, I got you.
Probably getting calls right now. Hey, I need you to represent me. I need you to represent me. Getting this guy off the most serious stuff. So we got that life sentence going. He's still not going to walk away free. He's going to do some time. What's our next case? Blah, blah says, what's our next case? What's our next case? I was this weekend, heavy rain in Florida. I was thinking about driving around, do some storm chasing, maybe tomorrow or the next day. We'll see. In reference to this case, it's not over. We have a hearing on Tuesday afternoon. We'll be on here 1 o'clock. I say 1 o'clock. We'll set it up 1:15, something like that. Just stay tuned for that. It's in reference to whether that sentencing from October 3rd gets expedited and pushed closer. We'll see what happens there. And then, if it's not an official sentencing, I don't think it's a sentencing, then they'll set up another hearing, and we'll most definitely cover that. And any other hearings and centered around this matter, will the government go after KK, D-Rock, and the others? I would think they would, but will they abandon that now that they couldn't prove this? We shall see there. But did he face other charges somewhere else, in some other jurisdiction somewhere else? These governments, they don't take L's. They don't take L's. So I'm not saying they will. I'm not saying they won't. Who knows? Who knows? Which we'll see moving forward. There could be an indictment. I'm just case in point, R. Kelly. R. Kelly had 2 indictments in 2 separate states. R. Kelly. So, you know, who knows? Maybe he gets federally indicted somewhere else in another jurisdiction for some other stuff. Guns, drugs, in those jurisdictions, you know, and or other things that weren't part of the RICO. Some people might say double jeopardy, but if there's more crimes out there that weren't prosecuted, they could technically prosecute. Will they? I don't know. What we do know is it is most certainly likely that Diddy's going to do additional prison time once he's sentenced. How much that could be, a year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, who knows? But it's a good likelihood that he's not going to be in prison past 60 years old. It's 55 now. Strong likelihood that he's not. He could technically be in prison till he's 75 at a 20-year maximum, but we know he's not going to get that. And the prosecution indicated that federal sentencing guidelines puts him down towards the 4 to 5 years range. Still a long time. What were y'all doing 5 years ago? It's a long time. I mean, but a lot of people think that's not enough time, including myself. Not enough time. I mean, we heard from these victims. We've heard about the behaviors, the things he did. It's bad. It's bad. So, yeah, he got off easy. He's still being punished. Judge has the final say. See what the judge says. I think the judge is going to go hard on him. I really do. I do think the judge is, because the judge didn't let him out. I think the judge will go hard. And he also has supervised release. So he'll be on a probation for extended period too. And then all the civil stuff. We will continue to cover that. We'll do deep dives into these lawsuits and continue this. We're not at the end here by any way, shape, or form. I think Mark said it's not over. Hey, I'm going by what did. You know how the judge used Diddy's own stuff out of his people's mouths to use against them about the violence. Well, Mark said it. This is far from over. There's a lot more to be done, a lot more things. There you go. It's not over. But folks, we're gonna. Oh, look at this. Look, what's he saying? What's he saying? Let's see. Do we got volume? What's he saying? Great.
Will he be giving you
So how are you celebrating? Because this is somewhat of a celebration. Do you drink, Mr. Steele? I asked that.
Alcohol?
Yes.
I don't drink alcohol.
Brian,
I'm going to answer your question about celebrating.
Yes, so are you going to celebrate?
There's this most beautiful woman on the face of the earth. That's right. Only equaled by our 2 girls. And I am going to find the fastest flight. That's right. And I'm going to go to my bride. That is what I'm doing.
What was your experience here in New York? The young girls reach out. The other rappers reach out and say, hey, you need your king, or hey, I need your home. So watch out, guys. I think we're cut it wrap.
So this is a little bit like a victory tour from you guys, yet Sean Combs has been found guilty of 2 federal criminal counts. Can you explain why you are so exuberant with your celebrations? I'll let you all do that.
Wait,
Have a
one
great night.
last. People are saying that the prosecutors chose the wrong witnesses. Can you speak to that?
You got to talk to the prosecutor. All right, so Steele said he's going home to his wife. First flight out, New York.
Listen, I'm talking having gotten on camera.
I'm still getting mobbed.
All day long.
Don't scare her.
Oh my God, you're famous, Mr. Steele. Look at that.
Steele taking selfies. Taking selfies. All right. All right. With that being said, it seems like everything is wrapping up here. JLR Magnolia investigates We appreciate each and every one of you that have been watching this case day in and day out. Trial is over. Sentencing next. Again, we'll be back on Tuesday. Hey, folks, we appreciate everyone. Again, tremendously grateful that you all spent time with us. We watched this together. Bad outcome, in my opinion. I'm giving you my opinion. I clearly saw the RICO. They proved their case. But this is how it works. Crapshoot. Sometimes you don't get the verdict. You think it's going to happen. Everything is just wild. Today has been a very wild day. Did not have this scenario on my bingo card. And I'm sure a lot of you didn't either. But again, it's been a wild 35 days, month and a half, 2 months. We'll continue to cover this and whatever else follows ahead. Stay safe out there. Y'all be blessed. Very grateful for every one of you. Everyone was watching from around the world. I think we had the coolest chat. You guys made this whole process go smoothly. We had a little bit fun together in the process. Not a fun outcome. This is not a fun matter because there is serious victims out there. You get what I mean. So, and Magnolia just put on the screen, thank you, everyone. So it's like they say, it's not over. We'll definitely be following this and sentencing Tuesday. In this case, Tuesday. And if you're new, consider following us wherever we go. Might be in my car for the next couple of days, driving around in heavy rain, possible hurricane. Who knows? Who knows? All right, folks, it's been real. We cover true crime 24/7, 365 on JLR Investigates. Y'all be blessed. Don't be a Diddy. Don't be a Diddy out there. Until next time, JLR Magnolia, be safe, everyone. Have a good evening.
The evidence was weak. It wasn't a strong case. It was a strong case in the media and all the pundits who wanted to say he's a woman beater. That doesn't equal a RICO charge.
This verdict really just goes to show how much women are really truly not believed.
If numbers don't lie, it was 36-0. 36-0.
Some even went as far as suggesting you must have been on the Diddy payroll. Would you like to clear that up?
I am not on the Diddy payroll. This was just my honest experience.
When you run with certain people and you know what they could be capable of, then you know you might be in clear and present danger.
The legal system, they want to get their hunk. They can't walk away. They're already disgraced. They don't want to walk away totally disgraced.
After 7 weeks of revelations and a case that's shaken the showbiz world, Sean Diddy Combs has been found not guilty of racketeering and not guilty of sex trafficking his ex-partner, Cassie Ventura, another woman referred to only as Jane. The jury did find him guilty on 2 counts, both of transportation to engage in prostitution, related to those same 2 women. Well, the verdicts have come as much of a bombshell as the case itself. We have an all-star panel of opinionated insiders and legal experts to explain what it all means and what happens next. In a moment, I'll talk to Young Jock and Sammy the Bull, and I'll talk to the Punisher, whose evidence appears to have been pivotal in this trial. But we begin with our legal panelists. Bruce Rivers, the criminal defense attorney who's covered the Diddy trial fastidiously on his popular YouTube channel. Suge Knight's former attorney, Matthew Fletcher, who's repeatedly questioned the strength of the prosecution's case. And Ariel Mitchell-Kidd, a lawyer who's represented other women who claim to have been Diddy's victims. And welcome to all of you. Matthew Fletcher, let me start with you, because you've been very clear with me in the many times you've appeared on Uncensored during this case that you believed they were not going to get convictions on the more serious charges. And what is fascinating about that, A, that you've been proven right, of course, but also that in the Southern District of New York, the success rate for federal prosecutors is 93%. You know, they hardly ever fail. So just why do you think here, I mean, it's being billed as Diddy beats the feds. Obviously, he's not completely beaten them, but he's only been found guilty of the least serious charges. Why do you think that has happened?
Because the evidence was weak. I've said from the very beginning, I've got over 100 jury trials. I did this for 23 years. All I do is trial consulting now. I can spot a bad case a mile away. And the first witness in this case, from the first witness in this case on, this was always about the government saying he's a bad person, which he is. He's a horrible, rotten woman beater. And as I told you last time, Agnifilo is going to get up there and say, convict him of every single count of domestic violence. But there aren't any counts of domestic violence. He did that. I told you before that they were going to sit there and say that these women enjoyed this. There was no coercion. There was no duress. And to show that one video of what happened years ago, that's what they built their entire case on. And it's horrible, but he wasn't charged with that. Racketeering, RICO is meant for particular vices, and those vices don't include shipping in prostitutes, and unfortunately they don't also include beating your wife or your girlfriend. That's what he was. He's a wife beater or girlfriend beater. He was never should have been charged with this, never close. All the people who were wringing their hands and saying, oh well, they must have convicted him in four counts. It's not even true. They never believed the word Cassie said. They never believed the word Jane said. That jury wasn't even out. 1 hour of deliberations, they came and said, Judge, we need to throw juror 25 off because he's not deliberating. That told you there was already a group of people together who were willing to go in one direction or the other. That jury deliberated 3 hours, essentially, before they had conviction or had verdicts, which a fast verdict like that, in my experience, tells me that's clearly a defense verdict. Clearly. They came back today and it was over. It wasn't a strong case. It was a strong case in the media and all the pundits who wanted to say he's a woman beater, which he is. That doesn't equal a RICO charge.
No, well, you've been very consistent on that. I mean, given the convictions he's now received, what is his likely sentence? I mean, each count, I think, is a maximum of...
Got to give him 2 years.
It's a maximum of 10 years on each count. So what do you think he'll get?
Yeah, but the feds are different. First of all, he's convicted of procuring a prostitute. If we're going to start throwing music moguls and billionaires in prison for procuring prostitutes, we're going to need to expand the prisons. We're going to have to get, alligator Alcatraz fired up. But, under the guidelines, he has no criminal records, basically. So he should get the minimum sentence, which is 2 years. And they could screw him over and run him bow-legged and do him consecutively. There's no reason for them to do that. I expect at 1 o'clock the judge is going to give him bail. I don't know why they wouldn't. I mean, there's very few people in federal prison right now for these charges. So I would be surprised if he didn't get bail. And he should get the minimum, because that's what they're not going to look at. Beat up Cassie. That's not relevant.
No, it's irrelevant. But let me ask you this, on a technical point, can the time that he served in prison then be removed? Say he gets 2 years to run concurrently on both counts. So he serves 2 years. Would they remove time served, or is that irrelevant?
The judge can do whatever the judge wants to, but he gets his credit. In feds, it's day for day, so he gets $1 for every dollar he put in. So he's 7 months into this already. So if they run him concurrently, he's looking at probably a 20-month guideline, and you knock off 7, and there's very real chance that he's not ever going to see a federal prison. That's if it doesn't get if the president doesn't do something with it, because this is the kind of thing that you can see someone granting a pardon on. I mean, it's the White Slave Trade Act. That's real difficult to sentence somebody on the White Slave Trade Act in 2025, just from a practical standpoint.
Okay.
The government failed miserably.
Yeah, well, they clearly have. Ariel Mitchell-Kidd, you represent a number of women in civil cases against Sean Combs. What is your reaction to this verdict?
Well, I think it's important that we discuss the lack of diversity that was on the prosecution team. That was probably my most concern when I faced them, when I had a hearing for a motion to quash during the grand jury testimony. I was very concerned when I was looking across from me at 6 white women and them not being able to grasp just exactly how to convey what has occurred to a jury and being able to relate these things to a jury. Of course, my clients are very shocked at all of this. I am shocked. I'm actually very shocked at how they were able to reach the transportation aspect, but not the other two charges, because one kind of flows with the other.
Well, they don't though, really, do they? Because the transportation is that you're transporting people illegally across state lines for the purpose of prostitution, but that doesn't mean there's any coercion. And in fact, they have rejected all the charges, which would then lead on to a coercive situation. No sex trafficking.
You can't cut me off and let me not finish my statement.
Sure.
So in reference to, first of all, the bar they have to meet, it's a very, very high bar in criminal court. It is beyond a reasonable doubt. So of course it's clear that he did these things, transporting people for prostitution, the prostitutes, like you just said, the Punisher, who you'll have later, and other men who have said they were transported, as well as the women who said, the Jane Does who said they were also transported for this reason. However, when we talk about the coercion, I thought the elements were met. If you are asking me where I think the prosecution fell short, was I think taking 6 weeks to put on their case was a mistake. It was overkill. I think had they shortened and streamlined their case, maybe in a 3-4 week at max point, they would have been successful.
And when you say the prosecution team wasn't diverse enough, what exactly do you mean? What are you saying?
There were 6 white women. So there was not any other voice other than a white woman's voice being heard. There was not a man's voice, a man's perspective of any race, let alone any other race, especially a Black voice, considering just how, I don't even know what the word, impactful is not even a good enough word to describe Diddy's, I want to say impacts, but that, again, that's not even a good enough word. His chokehold, I'll call it, on the Black community. So when I look at, like, for example, R. Kelly, who, in my opinion, didn't do half as much or a quarter as much as Diddy did. For him to be in jail for 25 years and Diddy to essentially be getting possibly 10 to 20 years, 10 years max on each count, I don't understand it.
Tax day has passed, but for millions of Americans, that's where the trouble begins. The IRS is now ramping up enforcement for those who missed the April deadline or still owe back taxes. Well, today's sponsor, Tax Network USA, can still help. If your books are a mess, if you're self-employed, or if you're a business owner, Tax Network USA specializes in cleaning up financial chaos and getting you back on track quickly. They say the IRS is applying enforcement pressure at levels they've never seen before. But even after the deadline, it's not too late to take control. The consultation is completely free. Acting now could stop penalties, threatening letters, and surprise levies before they escalate. Call 1-800-958-1000 or visit tnusa.com/peers. That's tnusa.com/peers. Let Tax Network USA make the next move, not the IRS.
I think what Diddy did
Could it
was
be, Ariel?
and there was more evidence.
Could it be, Ariel, that we're just in different times, that when R. Kelly went down, we were still in the kind of full flow of the Me Too movement, the Time's Up campaign. There was a kind of, real zealous desire to put bad men away for long periods of time, Harvey Weinstein and others. And that the mood has changed somewhat now, and that people listen to the evidence, particularly with Cassie Ventura, where, she settled with Diddy for, a lot of money, many millions of dollars, had her rent paid, then she, and all the text messages that were leaked, carried on sending him very loving text messages, talking openly about wanting to do the freak-offs. The Punisher, who I'm going to interview again a little later in the show, when I interviewed him, he was very persuasive that everything that he was involved in was not only consensual, but Cassie was the one driving it all. She was the one paying him. She was the one organizing everything. Diddy just sat in the corner watching them.
But let's be for real. Cassie didn't have her own money. So if that was the case, why did her parents need to take out a loan to pay Diddy for that
Right, but my question is,
so
whether I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I'm just saying,
and this was her thing to
okay,
do.
but Ariel, you're missing my point. I'm not saying whether it's right or wrong. I'm saying, do you feel like there's a different mood now about these cases?
I would hate. I was about to say I was trying to get to what your question was, which is I would hate to think that the application of the law is on the whim of the attitude of the people. So that's what you're implying, that because the wind has changed, there's an inappropriate application of law. And I would hate to think that we live in a society where that is occurring.
Okay. Bruce Rivers, I mean, you were very confident that he was going to go down to prison for the rest of his natural life. That is clearly not going to happen. So how do you feel about this verdict?
Well, I think the case was overcharged to begin with. And what the defense did in this case, they really focused on the free will of Cassie Ventura. When you have somebody that's a hanger-on, somebody that is getting something out of this, as opposed to somebody who's being forced into something, that's where I think the defense really won the day. And, I was going basically on the sensationalistic nature of the conduct because it really is bad. But when you really apply, I just tried one of these RICO cases here in Minneapolis on a gang case about a month and a half ago. And it's really easy to prove. But the thing about it is here, the court can use some of this acquitted conduct in sentencing. And so it's the final chapter hasn't been written. I know
he may still get a substantial prison sentence, you think?
He could. He could. The average person wouldn't, but the average person doesn't have all this other conduct. But how much of that is relevant to what a judge may decide should be a sentence? I mean, I don't think this judge is going to. I mean, the judge, for example, can't bring in the appalling beating video because the statute of limitations is over for that, right? It's not even relevant legally. Oh, sure it is. All the conduct of Diddy throughout this whole thing is relevant. The judge will take into consideration the whole picture of Diddy, not just the offense for which he's charged. He's got what I think he's like 7 months or something like that. So if you just look at the low end of the guidelines, he's almost got that served. And so a judge may say, this is not what the message I want to send to the public, and the judge very may well, he could sentence him consecutively. I doubt that he's going to, but
hasn't the jury, look, I mean, isn't the bottom line here that the jury seems to have concluded, and we may hear from some jurors, but, I've just seen a statement from Cassie Ventura's lawyer, Doug Wigdor. He says, we're just pleased that he still faces substantial jail time, or that remains to be seen. By coming forward with her experience, Cassie left an indelible mark on both the entertainment industry and the fight for justice. She displayed unquestionable strength and brought attention to the realities of powerful men in our orbit and the misconduct that's persisted for decades without repercussion. I'm not sure she has established that in terms of the eyes of the jury. I share the general view that video of Diddy beating her up in the hotel corridor was disgusting. He's clearly an appalling woman beater. However, that's not what he was charged with. And in terms of the charges, it just seems to me they didn't establish that any of this was non-consensual.
There's some truth to that, but they could have decided the RICO on the fact that there wasn't an enterprise. I mean, they could have we don't know why they acquitted on the RICO. On the sex trafficking, it has to be forced fraud or coercion, but they could have acquitted on something else. It's and I think one of the things, like you said, Pierce, is that they really focused on the free will and they had plenty of evidence to back that up. All the text messages saying, I can't wait for the freak off,
Right.
I mean,
but I thought, listen, as somebody, who's just looking at it with a journalist eye, I found that pretty persuasive for the defense. And again, I think it comes back. I mean, I'll bring Matthew back in here. The reason I mentioned the changing mood really about these kind of stories is that I think that people have become a little bit more cynical about cases where women have stayed in touch with the alleged abuser in a very loving and apparently very consensual way for a long period after the abuse is said to have happened. And then you add in the fact that there was a big settlement and Cassie took all that money and so on and so on. I think when you put it all together, a lot of people may feel differently now than they would have done, in 2019, 2020.
Now, first of all, R. Kelly got convicted because he was screwing kids. That's the big difference. To equate R. Kelly with Puff is just, it's wrong and it's silly and it's nonsensical. R. Kelly was guilty of screwing around with kids. No time 50 years ago or 50 years from now will that be okay. This was a bad case. No one believed Cassie. Here's all you need to know. Every single count in which the credibility of the alleged victims was put into question, the jury came back 36 times and said not guilty. Every single case, every single charge that had anything to do with Cassie or with Jane, the jury absolutely did not believe them, found them to not be credible, even to the extent to convict someone who's on a video beating the living snot out of the woman. That tells you all you need to know about the case. The media and people, lawyers, plaintiffs' lawyers who wanted to sue him said, oh, she's so convincing. It's hard to feel sorry for a woman who's instructing a sex worker on how to urinate in their mouth and telling her how to do it. And the Punisher, who I think is just an absolute star, explained this in to such a point of view, I threw my hands up because I literally go, I don't know, you can't have better testimony than that, other than when Jane said she thought that P. Diddy was a cuckold. And if the prosecution, if they didn't think they had to do it, the defense didn't think they had to do it, they could have called, any head of the human sexuality department and said, tell us about the swingers lifestyle, tell us about water games, tell us about this, put on the videos. That's clearly what it was. We don't have to guess because the jury has told us they believed what the defense team put out there. And Tenny Garagos from the very beginning set the stage for this, the tenor. This is all consensual. It's nothing coerced. And the jury believed every single word of it.
Yeah.
The two convictions are just based upon plane tickets and receipts. That's all. It literally didn't need any testimony from any of the two alleged victims. And I don't know why we're calling them, other than the videotape. In this case, they were found not to be victims. They were found to be incredible witnesses, and the evidence from their own mouths and their own fingertips and their own text messages proved that they shouldn't be believed. And the jury obliged them and didn't believe a word they said.
Yes, true. Ariel, in terms of the women you represent with civil actions against Sean Combs, how much will this verdict affect those? I mean, does it make it more difficult now to win a civil case?
Before I get into that, I want to just address this verdict really just goes to show how much women are really truly not believed.
What if they're not telling the truth? Many of us carry around bulky, worn-out wallets that are uncomfortable and full of junk. The big question is why. Ridge wallets can hold 12 cards plus cash with zero bulk. They're made from premium materials like aluminum, titanium, and carbon fiber. And they're built with RFID blocking technology to defend your cards against digital theft. Ridge offers a lifetime warranty, so this might be the last wallet you ever need. The same lifetime guarantee applies to their key cases, suitcases, and rings. All of them come with free shipping and a 99-day trial. For a limited time, get 10% off at Ridge by using code PEERS, P-I-E-R-S, at checkout. Just head to ridge.com and use code PEERS. After you purchase, they will ask you where you heard about them, so please support our show and tell them I sent you.
But who are you to tell somebody?
Well, who are you to tell a jury of 12 Americans? You're implying. Hang on, Ariel. Hang on, Ariel.
20 years ago, but you're cutting me off. So
you're cutting me off.
20 years ago or 10 years ago, as you just said, there was a movement with Me Too where women were actually starting to be heard, and now we're just going back to regular status quo.
No, that's not true. No,
treated as liars and martyrs.
No, hang on.
Story has to withstand scrutiny.
Hang on a sec. I was going to say, Ariel, just to be clear, they have been heard, right? They went into a criminal court.
I said believed. I said we are back.
Can you not interrupt me, given you didn't want me interrupting you? Thank you. They have been heard for 6 weeks, and they weren't believed. So it's not a question of women not being heard. They've had their chance to try and prove their case, and so much evidence came out which contradicted what they had to say, including very powerful evidence from the Punisher, who I'm about to interview. But this idea that somehow this is about women being silenced, not being heard, and so on, the complete opposite has happened. And what you're actually doing is you're saying this jury of 12 Americans didn't know what they were doing or had some weird desire not to listen to women. It seems to me they listened very carefully to the evidence and they've reached a conclusion they didn't believe these women. And you know what, Ariel? Sometimes women lie.
I'm not saying, but okay, who's saying that people lie? Women or men? Men lie, women lie, numbers don't. So we all know that.
So why are you saying it's a throwback to when women weren't believed?
Women are not being believed. So there were 8 men on a jury who, again, I'm saying to say they heard them, I don't think they did. So believe them definitely, because you can't believe somebody if you not truly are listening to them. Why? Because you're
that's an outrageous slur. You got no evidence they didn't listen to them.
No man on this panel, all 3 of you, will never be in a position of any woman in any scenario where you can be taken advantage of, where you can be literally
what
abused
are you talking
and then
about?
not be heard
How many
and
women
be
have taken
believed
advantage
after
of
the
me?
fact. So I'm just saying there are 3 men who will, and 8 men on that jury who will never know what it's like. And instead of trying to understand the position that a woman could be in, and a woman like Cassie and a woman like the other Jane Does who testified in this matter, they completely disregarded it.
No, they didn't. They didn't disregard it. They didn't believe it.
I'll circle back to your
They
question.
didn't believe
How
it.
does this
And what you're
affect
doing,
our
you're basically saying no man can ever be on a jury fairly in a case like this. There's no evidence to suggest that whatsoever. The evidence was the evidence on the evidence. Ariel, on the evidence that was presented, if I'd been on that jury, I'd have come to the same conclusion.
A man, I would assume a man would.
Actually,
So
most
for
women,
you to say that
most women I know who studied the evidence properly also reached that conclusion.
And it's some men I talk to who reach the opposite. So I'm not saying any men or all men, because every person is different. But what I'm saying is men in general the men who I know who do understand had women who experienced that, like their mothers. So they experienced that in tandem with their mothers. So they have a better understanding of how abuse works, how the cycle of abuse works, how women typically go back to their abusers. But outside of that, you asked me about how did this affect my clients and our cases moving forward. It does not. This case had no effect and would have no effect. We have our own bars that we need to meet in terms of the preponderance of the evidence that we need to reach in our cases. And we are also glad, just in the same voice with Mrs. Ventura, that Diddy will be going to jail. He has skirted, and for there to be this assertion that Diddy has been this law-abiding citizen who hasn't been through this multiple times before, this is really just the only time he got caught up. So I think all of that will affect him, and we are very happy to see him be convicted. We are very happy to see what type of jail time he faces, and we are more excited to litigate our cases against him.
Okay, final word to you, Bruce, just quickly.
The women's cases were heard. They had to withstand scrutiny. The jury, that included women, were unanimous in their rejection of their story. Simple as that. And he is going to get some significant prison time, and he's already done significant jail time. So, hopefully he engages in other behavior, not so risky.
Yeah, I agree. Panel, thank you.
If numbers don't lie, it's 30. Let me say it's this. If numbers don't lie, it was 36-0. 36-0. In the counts in which the women jurors and the male jurors were asked, do you believe what Cassie and Jane Doe say? 36-0 said we do not believe him.
Yep.
Numbers don't lie.
Pretty overwhelming, you might think. Thank you all very much. I appreciate it. Well, Young Jock and Sammy DeBull are coming up momentarily, but I'm going to bring in a man whose testimony in the trial may have been a game changer. Male escort Sheree Hayes, known as the Punisher, was caught by the prosecution. As he later explained on Uncensored, it may have been more helpful to the defense.
Getting accused, didn't have any thing that would lead me to believe in the moment that she was under any duress or any force scenario. It was presented to me that this was something that she wanted to create for her husband.
Well, Sheree Hayes rejoins me now. Welcome back to Uncensored, Sheree. I really felt after the interview that we did, which followed you giving evidence, that you were a very powerful cog, I think, in the wheel for the defense of Diddy, because you spoke very openly, very honestly, I felt, and you made it crystal clear that from everything you had observed over 18 months, 2 years, you've never seen anything which you felt was non-consensual. And it seems that has been the conclusion that the jury has reached. Not that women were not taken across state lines, which is obviously illegal if they're prostitutes, but that, men as well, but that actually that is the only thing which was wrong here, that actually there was no coercion or trafficking or people being made to do things against their will.
Yeah, I mean, that was my experience. Me taking a stand, I wanted to just be completely honest with the facts of what went on. And, something I will say is, as this went on over the course of 2.5 years, and I would have very personable one-on-one interaction with Kathy prior to the activity, and then also at the conclusion of the activity. And it was always good-spirited, good vibe, no indication that there was any issues, or not even any indication of being the slightest intoxicated, under the influence of any drugs or substances. And it was always a pleasant scenario that I told you I walked away with, actually feeling as like a positive thing that I was even involved. So everything threw me off with the allegations. I can only speak from my specific experience, but none of it never really added up to me.
So are you? I mean, what's your response to the verdict?
I thought the verdict was what it was supposed to be. This is domestic violence. If you want to talk about domestic violence and his behavior in those situations, that's a different subject. But when you look at a 10-year relationship, and mutual text messages expressing love and care, and at multiple points, excitement about the sexual activity, to then say, okay, I'm going to signal out a couple of instances and make it a crime, always to me was a stretch.
Do you feel, we were talking about it earlier, that there might be a changing mood about these kind of cases, that at the height of Me Too, there was a kind of frenzy, and some very bad men clearly got the punishment they deserved. Others, many people felt there was a massive overreach. And a lot of those cases, which were messier, involved cases where there was lots of evidence after the alleged crime or claimed crime that, that everything was still very friendly, consensual, loving, and so on. Do you think that juries now maybe are less willing to convict people when that kind of evidence comes out than they may have been, say, 3-4 years ago?
I do. I think initially, because there was such a strong movement, right? And all of these cases and there was a neglect over years of women being hurt. And that was a real thing. But now, because there's so many scenarios of financial gain and a monetary gain based on these circumstances, the majority of these cases are filed civilly before they're filed criminally. Right. And so I think it is just responsible, right, to look at these things in totality, especially in a case like this where you have people in a long-standing, loving, caring relationship that years after the fact, it becomes a crime. And, every relationship has ups and downs and tough moments and difficulties and adversity that gets ugly sometimes. But for it to translate to a space of criminal activity in the midst of being in love and then continuing to be in love, it should be looked at and scrutinized really strongly.
I mean, the complication, of course, with Diddy is that we've all seen the horrific video of him attacking Cassie Ventura in a hotel corridor, which is clearly criminal behavior. I mean, he beats her up in the most disgusting manner. Had he been charged with that when charges could still be leveled in terms of the timescale after it happened, he might well have gone to prison for that. So this is the complication of this case. Everybody has seen that video, and they know that he is a nasty piece of work who is capable of beating up a woman badly, even when he's in a relationship with, in a hotel corridor. So that's why I think this is a complex case for people to say, well, if he now gets away, as they would see it, gets away with a very light sentence for quite minor offences, that imagery is still lurking in the background about the kind of person he really is.
Yeah, I mean, look, domestic violence, you know, there's no way to sidestep the behavior in that video. And, you know, statute of limitations are what they are. There was no charges that could be brought up for it. But if you're just talking about the charges themselves in regards to sex trafficking and racketeering, it's just hard to take that instance and turn it into those charges. You know, as egregious as that instance was, it just doesn't add up.
Right.
It's just not aligned.
How has your life been affected by being such a high-profile witness in a case like this?
It's something that I have to manage, because in forums like this, where you have people that's gonna judge it based on the facts, judge it based on the way I represent myself or whatever, it's fine. I feel like to be involved in such a high-profile, ugly scenario, I've landed on my feet. But you still have a big portion of people that they operate on ideology and opinion. And, you know, I get DMs periodically, you know, with women yelling at me saying I urinated on Cassie. How could you urinate on Cassie? So there is a negative aspect that I just have to maneuver through. But hey, look, where are some of our choices? This was a choice. This was a decision I made, and I'm just dealing with it, you know, trying to make the most of it.
Digging in the scene, digging in the scene with the gangster leaning up, and we ain't coming down. See on my face that smile, see on my head that crown. Top of the world, top of the town, baby.
I moved up the hood that had the church on the corner where I sit and talk shit all day cause I wanna. And on top of that, wasn't none of y'all gonna do nothing but keep running your mouth and keep frontin'. Go ahead and say something. I'll wait. I ain't gonna wait too late, 'cause in a minute I'm escape. 'Cause there is no debate. No, it's not an option. You gotta keep the cop watch.
Sun rooftop, digging in the scene, digging in the scene with the gangster leaning up, and we ain't coming down. See on my face that smile.